So I have some reading questions for you guys. This is pertaining Act 1, Scene 2. And a lot of people were asking me over the weekend, where's the link? There's not a special link. In fact, hopefully all of you guys were looking at the screen at the time I was explaining, but it's here. It's linked into the Othello part. So if you see right there, there's your homework under week 2, Thursday. It says read Othello and it's in blue. That means it's linked. So I linked it to the website. And then I think Jalea was the one who told me that there wasn't an Act 1. There is, and it's right here, Act 1, Scene 1 and 2. That's the one you were supposed to read for today. So just as a reminder, this is business as usual. Homework is to read. You can expect that I'm going to try to prove that you read, right? Especially from your quotes and whatnot. But this morning I checked and only about half of you had done your graphic organizers. So unlike regular school day, you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to do stuff. That's 4 days. And totally realize there's other stuff to do. But just make sure that you're getting through your stuff, okay? All right. So go ahead and go down in our class plans. And on the blue, so we just did our reminders of project, homeworks, survey, and whatnot. So underneath that, there's reading questions. Go ahead and click on that. That's one way to get to it. The second way to get to it is through Google Classroom, and it's the latest assignment. Let me go to Google Classroom. Never mind, there it is. Okay, so in Google Classroom, there's Act 1, Scene 1 questions. Click on it. It's like a little quiz. It's really not a quiz. But go ahead and answer these questions. There are 1, 2, 3 questions. They are doing 10 minutes. So it should not take you more than 10 minutes. First question is, why does Iago hate Othello? Super easy. What is revealed about Iago's character when he says, I am not what I am? And this is on the first scene. And the second question is, third question, sorry, how does Iago try to instigate a brawl? So like a fight. And this is on Scene 2. So go ahead and answer those questions, submit them. And again, you have until 9:40. Ooh, somebody already turned them in. Nice, thank you. Okay, so then hold on tight. I'm gonna turn off my camera for the time being because I need to do some stuff. So that's what you're doing. Again, you find it in Google Classroom or in the class plans. It's linked in Google Classroom. It's the latest assignment. Go ahead and do that right now. And let me pause the share, stop the share, stop, resume sharing. There we are. Okay, so let me go back to here. So hopefully everybody, but Maria said she wasn't aware. So here it is. So here's our weeks, right? And this is where we were last week. We finished Thursday, right? And it says here, remember, everything that's in yellow highlighter is what we do in class. Anything that's bold, like bold sort of thing, is homework. So right here, and you'll always find homework right at the end, right? Or where there is no homework, like over here, homework graphic organizer, no homework, just work on your project. And then on Thursday, we had 2 homeworks. One was read Othello, Act 1, Scene 1 and 2. And there's a plus right there. Fill out a graphic organizer. And I said a graphic organizer because I didn't create one for you. That means you had to create your own graphic organizer. You could have done a Cornell, you could have done a dialectical journal, like the one I posted, and just copy it off there. It was up to you, or just a plain paper, right? And there's another plus in there. You also had to do 45 minutes of SAT prep.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Got it. All right. So for everybody, make sure you check when there's homework. And because I know it seems like, oh, Ms. Rosas, you're overdoing it, but notice that this was assigned on Thursday, and then you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There's 4 days in between. That's almost a week, like a Monday through Friday week sort of thing. So that's why I'm, and just to keep you guys on your toes, that Thursdays are a little bit heavier on homework because there's such a big gap. Okay? All right.
Miss Roses,
Yes, ma'am.
about that though, like personally, since I'm at home, like I've been
Yes.
assigned to do a lot more things at home, so then I've been falling behind in my other classes, and I'm just saying, like, even if there is like a 4-day gap, there's still a lot more to it, and it's just a little bit more difficult.
Yes, and that's why they're not being assigned every week. So I'm just going to assign Khan Academy every other week. So you not just have 4 days, you'll have like a week and 4 days. You know what I'm saying? Just to spread it out through, so this week we had to do one, or you guys had to do one, but since it was the first week, I'm being a little bit more lenient, and if you were late, didn't do it, catching up, that's okay. But like this week, I'm not going to assign Khan Academy again. So it'll be next week when I assign it. So I know it's kind of a lot of stuff to catch up on. Give me a second, Maria. But just know you have plenty of time, Nolani. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, pray tell. So, okay, for one thing, your computer is at 10%. And I understand that we had the expository writing project due on April 30th.
Yeah.
About being financially stable, and you can do the poster or the website, XYZ, but do we not still have the traditional book report that we were reading our book for? I have not heard anything about that since we left school, and I was wondering if you had.
Oh, I did, actually. I don't know if you were.
Am I tweaking?
Yes, I did. It's due May 21st. In fact, that's one thing that I address on the first day.
Right, I remember that because it's Donna's birthday.
Yeah, that the full thing is due May 21st, which is next
right.
week. So.
Okay, but maybe that's why I haven't heard that much about it, because it's so far away.
No, but I did speak about it on the first day. I don't know if you were.
I know you did speak about it, but I haven't heard it like repeated over and over. So I kind of was like, oh, it doesn't matter.
No, I mean,
I know.
For sure. You guys had an entire semester, so yeah, I don't know if does that clear up your confusion?
Yes.
Okay, so yes,
thank you.
I know it's a lot, but a lot of these things I'm trying to space out as much as I can. So anyway, all right, let's go into the analysis of the first 2 scenes. I don't think we're gonna get past scene 1, but I'm gonna attempt to. So go ahead and grab your notebooks. You're gonna start taking notes. And also grab your graphic organizer so you can just copy and paste stuff out. So 2 things: notebooks for notes and graphic organizer. Am I sharing my screen with you guys?
Yes.
You can see it. Okay. Why is my camera off? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. So there's my screen. We already did 1 and 2, which was reading the reading questions. Oh, and by the way, not always, we won't always have reading questions. They're kind of random. So sometimes we'll have reading questions, sometimes we won't, because y'all need to read. Like, you actually need to read. So, and I realize Shakespeare is hard to read, but you got to get used to it. All right, so we're gonna, item number 3 on our agenda, debrief Act 1, Scene 1, some of the plot information and some of the quotes. So let me go to my thing right over here. So we got to Scene 1, and we see a conversation between Rodrigo and Iago. So let me go very quickly to Miss Faith. What is that conversation looking like? And let me skip that and go to the play. What is the conversation starting to look like? So as we start Act 1, Scene 1 in our Othello, what does the conversation look like? What are they talking about? Like, it seems like almost like a random start, right? But we see enter Rodrigo and Iago, so 2 of the characters, and they're talking about somebody. Who are they talking about?
Most
They're
likely Othello.
The Moor, and they're kind of arguing about it.
Very good. And what are they arguing about? And Victor just kind of spoke up, but Victor, so why he says over here, thou told me that this hold him in thy hate. So Rodrigo's telling Iago, you have told me that you hate him, right? So they're talking about him. They're kind of gossiping in a way. And so Iago goes on to his first sort of big explanation on why he hates the Moor. Why does he hate him, according to your own words, Victor?
Well, from what I can tell, in like this first line, in personal suit to make me his lieutenant, off kept it to him. And faith by man, I know my price. I am worth no worse than a place.
Okay, stop right there. So he says in a personal suit, so he was hoping, right, to be his lieutenant. So like his man of trust, right? The Moor, or Othello's man of trust. Off cap to him, and by the faith of man, I know my prize. I am worth no worse a place. So what does he mean by I know my worth, I know my place? Let me go to Jalea. What does Iago mean by I am worth no worse a place, or I know my price? What does that mean?
Kind of like he knows he's hiding something from everyone else.
Not quite. So remember, they're talking about how Iago wanted to be his personal lieutenant. This is, and his here is the Moor. And he says, for real, like I'm kind of translating, for real, go ahead, Jessica.
Allie needs to be let in. Her internet was turned off.
Yes, I already did.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So he says, and but the faith of man, meaning it's truthful. So what I'm about to say is true. He says, I know my prize. I am worth no worse a place. So what that means is I know what I'm worth. I know my value. I know I'm I could have made a really good lieutenant. So go ahead and take notes on this line, since some of you guys were confused. So this is line 10. We're speaking right now lines 10 to 25. So let me go to my...
On the graphic organizer, since I
Yes,
turned
ma'am.
it in, I need edit access because I can't put
Edit
anything on
access. You can just do file, make a copy. File, and then do make copy.
Oh, okay.
And then that'll grant you, because if you're trying to edit mine, it won't work. Okay, so we're on Act 1, Scene 1, and here's the line numbers 10 to 25. That's what we're trying to analyze in these few minutes, right? The first thing that Iago does is he speaks highly of himself. So that's right here. And as you're taking notes, go ahead and write down the line number so you know where exactly that's taking place. So we're here in lines 10 through, through 14, right? Yeah, 14. So he says, despise me if I do not, right? Yes, I hate him. 3 great ones of the city in personal suit to make me his lieutenant. So there were 3 men who were competing for this position of lieutenant. Go ahead and write that in your notes, right? So again, 3 people fighting for the position of lieutenant. And Othello was to choose who he was going to make his lieutenant, right? And Iago's talking about the fact that he was not chosen, right? He himself, he's all like, well, I wasn't chosen. He says, and I know who I am. I know I'm worth. I should have been the one chosen, right? He says, and now he talks about the Moor. He talks about Othello, but he, as loving his own pride and purposes, evades them with the bombast circumstance, horribly stuffed with epithets of war. So he's saying, but he, and who is he in this case? Who is the he that he's been referring to all along? Haley, Lucas. Othello, very good. So he's been referring to Othello. His own pride, and this is why he says he didn't choose him. He says he's so prideful. He thinks of himself as so high that he can't let anybody else who's higher up in him. So Iago thinks Othello didn't choose him as his lieutenant because he is prideful and because he doesn't want anyone above him. Okay, so make sure that you write that down in your notes for Act 1, Scene 1. So let me walk you through here. So I didn't write that. That's why I'm telling you to write that down. Not only Iago speaks highly of himself, he also says that according to his perspective, the reason why Othello didn't want him to be a lieutenant was because he's better than Othello. And of course, Othello doesn't want anybody better than him and his own, employees almost. So that's the reason why he says I didn't get it, because he's all arguing to. He's telling Rodrigo, look, I'm a pretty good person, I'm really good. I could have made a pretty good lieutenant, but this guy is so prideful, he didn't want to choose me. And so then he says, non sub my mediator. So Certes says I've already chose my officer. And what was he? So now he's going to talk about the competition, right? He says, forsooth, a great arithmetician, one Michael Cassio, a Florentine, a fellow almost down in a fair wife, that never set a squadron in the field, nor the division of a battle knows, more than a spinster. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here in these. This is line 20 to 25. Okay, so after he speaks highly of himself, he's obviously upset. He's obviously upset that he was not chosen to be a higher officer. We already know why, he says. But now he's here. He's dismissing Cassio, which is his competition, as being womanly and inexperienced. And how do we know that? Well, let's go back to the thing. He says, one Michael Cassio. And here's his description of Cassio. A Florentine, a fellow almost damned in a fair wife, meaning he's almost like a woman, right? He's dismissing him as a woman or womanly. He says he's never set a squadron in the field, nor the division of a battle knows, meaning he doesn't know how to put together a division and go to battle. He's never done that. He has no more experience than a spinster. Mariah, what's a spinster? What does this word mean?
A spinster is somebody who sits around weaving yarn and cloth and spinning yarn.
There you go. So, and who, just knowing Elizabethan culture, who does this? Whose job is this? Is it men's job to do this?
Ladies.
Ladies. So he says he's like a lady. He's been sitting around all day. He's never known. He's inexperienced. So notice, and here's the notes where you guys come in. Not only Iago speaks highly of himself to try to say, well, I don't know why he didn't choose me. I was a better man, right? Oh, I know why he didn't choose me. Othello doesn't want competition, right? Because I'm not just better than Cassio or the other persons trying to become, he assumed his gender. What does that mean? So that's what he's trying to do, right? But then goes on to dismiss Cassio as being womanly and inexperienced. So one of the things that you want to see of Iago is that he does not take personal responsibility. Okay, so go ahead and write that in your notes. Iago is a character who does not know how to take personal responsibility. He doesn't know how to own his actions. Or even, as you guys would put it in plain words, he doesn't know how to lose. So go ahead and add that.
He doesn't know how to take those L's.
There you go. So Iago doesn't know how to assume responsibility. So it doesn't know how to get or have responsibility for his own. Oops. There you go. Perfect. And so he dismisses him. So from the get-go, what is Shakespeare trying to do as he's presenting this character? what are some of the flaws that this character has? And I am adding into my PowerPoint from you guys' perspectives. So let me hear from, go ahead, Haley. What is Shakespeare trying to do with his character as he presents him?
He thinks he's trying to represent Iago as like selfish and someone who only cares about himself and like
egocentric.
Yeah.
Egocentric, selfish. Let me see. Nolani, what do you think, honey? What kind of character is Iago? Just from the few lines that we've explored.
I feel like he hasn't had much practice in like being told that he's wrong or self-reflecting. I feel like he only puts his problems and blames other people.
Very good. Yes, definitely not. He's unable to self-reflect, blames the others, can't really see things as reality. So he only sees his own perspective. Let me see. Let me hear from Olivia. Anything you want to add to who is Iago according to Shakespeare? So what kind of character is he trying to paint to his audience?
I kind of feel like he's a little two-faced in a way.
Ooh, you're getting ahead of me, but yes, definitely he is two-faced. And can you explain a little bit further on what does two-faced mean?
You show one personality to one person, and then you go and show another personality because you don't want the person to find out your true one, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So you show, let me add that into the notes. Show one personality to a person and a different one to another. So that's what a two-faced person means. And I'm sure there's a better term for it, but we're just going to take that. So that's where I wanted to go next. Because Iago doesn't just not know how to assume responsibility. He's a two-faced person. So let me go down into the... Okay. I know that you guys are submitting stuff, but this is definitely not the time to submit stuff just because we're trying to take notes. And so if you want to submit stuff, that's cool. Just do it after class. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing because Google Classroom sends me a notification every time people submit stuff. So if you're multitasking, it's cool, but kind of be paying attention because these things are going to come up with on the essay. So if I'm spending time on it, they're probably important. All right. So I'm going to skip on that. And now we see a little bit more of Iago. And he now is talking about, where's that quote that I found? Here, let me go to my thing. Okay, so there you go. It says line 60. So go ahead and go with me to line 60. So all the way to the bottom right here is line 60. And we're going to focus a little bit on these ideas that he talks about. Right? So he's going back forth with Iago, and Rodrigo's kind of saying, oh, why'd you hate him so much? And then he explains, and they're here saying, well, you should serve him. It, should still be okay. And, he even says, now, Serge, be judge yourself, whether I in any just term am a fine to love the more. I would not follow him then. And then they're talking back and forth. So he comes to this idea and he says, were I the Moor, so if I was Othello, I would not be Iago in following him. I follow but myself. Heaven, so here he brings in God, right? Heaven or God is my judge. Not I for love and duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. For when I'm outward action, my outward action doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart, in complement extern. 'Tis not long after, but I will wear my heart upon my sleeve, for thus to peck at. I am not what I am. So, seems a little complicated to explain, but I'm going to go line by line, okay? So, he's saying in these first two lines, if I was Othello, and this is basically what he's saying, I would not trust me, right? And if I was Othello and he was Iago, I wouldn't trust him. And now he really unmasks himself in front of Rodrigo. So he says, heaven is my judge, that I am a loving and dutiful person, right? So he has some sort of, he can be a faithful person, right? And sometimes he says, my actions do demonstrate what's in my heart, right? But then he says, this is only to complement the extern, which means this is only to make myself look really good. So he is a kind of person, and let me go back to my little notes. So he is the kind of person that will do good deeds, right? So let me add that into the notes. And as you guys are looking that I'm writing, go ahead and add that into your notes if you want. So he is the kind of person who, he stays faithful, right? He says duty and love. So he can love. It's not like he's evil and incapable of loving. Stays faithful only when it benefits his image. So what does that mean? It's this kind of person who will do things, will show himself, will truly act faithfully. But there's only one reason why. Why is that, Jessica? Why can he be faithful? What is the purpose?
So he would only be faithful whenever it kind of helps him or
yeah, so if it benefits his image, like his image in front of people, then that's when he starts acting good, right?
yeah. It's not like he's doing it from the good of his heart. It's just
there you go.
to make himself appear better.
There you go. So it's self. So it's only, and I'm going to capitalize this word because it's one of the words that we're looking into. It's this appearance. I'm sure I misspelled that word. I did not. Okay. It's appearance. I did. My bad. Okay. So this appearance, he appears to be good, and he's, he himself, he's unmasking himself. He says, I'm pretty good sometimes. And then he says, my outward action does demonstrate what is in my heart, right? In complement extern. But then he says, 'tis not long. So it's not long after I'll do this to my heart, right? Like roll up my sleeve, and then really what's underneath it. He says, for DOS to peck at, I am not what I am. And this was one of your questions. What does he mean to say when he says, I am not what I am? What does that mean? Go ahead, Haley.
It means that he's not showing his true personality. Like, he's hiding who he truly is, but he wants to display a kind of likable feature so everyone likes him. Yeah. But he's not showing his true self, basically.
Very good. We put showcases. Features, there you go. But not showing his true identity. Now, there's something about, and I know we're exploring this character as we go, but there's something about his character in this, especially when he's talking to Rodrigo, because he's probably the only person who he can truly be himself. Why is it that he is not afraid of showing who he really is to Rodrigo? And we haven't done much but scene 1 and scene 2, but let me go to Charlie. Charlie, why do you think Iago is kind of shamelessly accepting the fact that he's not who he seems to be all the time? Can you talk? You're unmuted now. Maybe not. Okay. Oh, Rachel. Good morning. Hi. Did you hear the question, honey?
Yeah, he said, Miss Rosa.
Chat. Okay, he said unplugged. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's but hurt. Okay, so I'll wait for Charlie. Technical difficulties over here. Let's see. Oh, sorry. So I'm waiting for Charlie to answer, but since he's taking a while, we're gonna move on, and I'm gonna ask Rachel. So the question, Rachel, is why is Iago shamelessly saying who he really is to Rodrigo? Why does he even trust him? Like, we don't know much yet, but take a guess. Why do you think he's, you know, he can actually be open to this guy?
Maybe because he's trying to get people in on like his plot to take down Othello, maybe.
Oh yeah. So I guess the idea then is, so let me put a quick scenario. Like, I'm trying to, who can we kill? Who do we despise? Well, not really. No, we don't despise anyone. Okay, let's say we're trying to kill Sophia, right? I'm trying to kill Sophia, Sophia Golden. And I tell you, like, oh, I hate her so much. So I'm talking to Rachel or everybody else who's in here. I hate her so much. Like, this is why I hate her. And trust me, like, when I'm around her, like, I could be the nicest person, but when I'm behind her, like, I cannot hide my hate for her. So as Rachel's saying, the reason why I'm opening up, right, let's say I'm opening up to Rachel and saying all these things, is because I'm hoping to get somebody on board with my plan. And, you know, later on, you'll see how this works out. Okay, hun, go ahead.
I don't know, was that Charlie?
That was Charlie, yeah.
Oh, I had a question though.
Go ahead, Sudi.
About his character. He seems really manipulative, but he also seems like really analytical. Like he's able to self-analyze himself very accurately, but he's also very manipulative. So you think that he wouldn't be such a bad character because, you know,
well, I guess it all depends on what you call bad or what we all call bad.
Oh,
but I think in general, the perspective that we all agree on is, like you were saying, he is manipulative. Like, he manipulates people very easily. He lies, obviously. He's a sham. But he's not ashamed of it. You know, he's pretty out there. He's open about it. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thank you.
We haven't really gotten too much into the story.
We have not.
Another reason why he might be expressing himself like this is because he knows something about Rodrigo, like a secret or something that he's done.
Well, we'll go a little bit into that. In fact, Rodrigo does say that he also doesn't like Othello very much. And let me go back to this slide where it tells us a little bit more about Rodrigo. Where's Rodrigo at? So Rodrigo turns out, and I don't think you can see it, but Rodrigo turns out was in love with Desdemona. So there kind of comes the reason why, and again, we haven't read much into it, but for everybody, why is Rodrigo the chosen one, right? The one that Iago opens up to? Well, Rodrigo also has hate for Othello. And the reason why he hates Othello is because he took his girl, the girl that he loved, and stole it, basically, right? And so he feels like, who are you? Like, you're just a black guy. Like, and he even calls him thick lips, as you'll see in the bottom. So let's go back to that. So yes, that's kind of something that they have in fact, it's right here. Rodrigo says, what a full fortune does the thick lips owe if he can't carry it thus. So there, Rodrigo obviously is adamant towards Othello, and he calls him this racial thing, thick lips, right? He's talking about Othello. Now, this is where the whole plots or the whole exposition is barely starting, right? Now we have Iago call up her father, you know, wake him up, go and he says, poison his delight, right? He's so evil. He says, poison his delight, proclaim him in the streets, incense her kinsmen. And though he in a fertile climate dwell, plague him with flies, though that his joy be joy, yet throw such changes of vexation on as he may lose some color. So he's talking about Othello, right? He's like, we're going to do something so bad that this black man is going to go white or lighter white, right? So these two men are going to unite to go against Othello. And let me go down to, so right now they're at the father's house, right? They go run in, they're in the street. This is late at night, everybody's sleeping, but they go, Rodrigo and Iago go and wake up Brabantio. And they say, Senor Brabantio, wake up, you know, thieves, they've taken your daughter, check your house, make sure everybody's in there. And Brabantio wakes up, you know, and he's up here at the window, and he says, like, what's happening, you know? And Rodrigo's like, where's your family? And Brabantio is obviously not aware of what's going on. But what has happened, Wesley? What's happened to Desdemona that Brabantio doesn't know? Go ahead, Wesley. Mic doesn't work. I think it doesn't work. Okay, let me go to, oh, Tank's mic was working earlier. What's happened to Desdemona? Where is she at? Why are they looking for her? Tank, go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go.
I don't really know. I kind of read a little bit, but I didn't read a lot.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Taylor. What happened to Desdemona, hon? Why are they looking for her? Taylor. There she is. I don't think hers works. Let me see. Let me go to, I don't know. Oh, Victor. This is Victor. Okay. What happened to Desdemona? Why they're looking for her? Why are they saying, let's go wake up her father and ask where she at? What happened to her? Where is she at?
Well, I wasn't able to like fully like figure out where she is, but I'm thinking based off of their conversation, they're assuming that she's with Othello because they mentioned something about them getting married or something like that, and they even tell their father about that, and then Desdemona's father gets all mad about it, and they're like, we're gonna charge a brawl at this man. Let's go.
Very good. So yes, you were along those lines. So Desdemona has run away with Othello. She's gone, right? And she didn't have this proper wedding like everybody in the Elizabethan culture expected her to have. She ran away with him. She married him, but she ran away with him. So that's where we're at over here for everybody who's having trouble reading it. Goes in and says, you know, your daughter has gone now. And there's a couple stuff that he mentions. He says he can't even believe it right here on line, what is it, like 97. He says, have you lost your wits? Like, are you okay? And Rodrigo's like, yeah, like, don't you know me? Like, and then Brabantio, you know, mind you, this is nighttime and whatnot. And he says, my name is Rodrigo. And he says, oh, that's you? And the reason why, and here's where it starts. He says, the worst are welcome. I have charged thee not to hunt about my doors. In honest plainness, thou hast heard me say, my daughter is not for thee, not for you. And now in madness, being full of supper and distempering draughts upon malicious bravery, dost thou come to start my quiet? So he's saying, I've told you already to not come about my house. My daughter, I'm not going to give you my daughter in marriage. So he doesn't even believe him that his daughter has run away because he says, I told you not to come around my house. You know, it looks like Rodrigo was there pretty frequently trying to get Desdemona's attention, right? But he's saying, you're such a brave soul. You came to my doors even though I've told you not to come, you know, and even though I've told you that my daughter is not for you. So here is, we get the reason why, we get Rodrigo's reason why he's in the window and why he hates Othello. Brabantio decided not to give Rodrigo his daughter. And remember, in Elizabethan culture, the father chooses the husband. So it's not the daughter who chooses the husband, it's the father. And at this point, when Desdemona was looking to marry, Rodrigo was one of her suitors, right? Was one of the guys that was going after her. And he didn't want to give it to her. So I have gone, I've gone over my time a bit. So I'm going to stop right here because we got to move on into the other class. But we didn't get to do scene 2. We're almost at the end of scene 1. So next class, we are going to do, let's see. Yes, next class, we're going to do scene 2. So for today, there will be no homework. And that's why I was waiting a little bit. No homework. So you won't have to read anything. But if you have not done your graphic organizer, then you need to make sure that you have done that. If you've not read, and looks like the few people who I asked haven't read, if you haven't read, you need to read, like for real, you need to read. You're going to be lost throughout if you don't read. So make sure that you're reading. If you're not understanding something, go to SparkNotes. SparkNotes has a literal translation of the lines next to the lines. And I'm not prohibiting anybody from doing that. So that's another resource that you can do if you're not understanding Shakespeare, because the language is so old. Okay? All right. So that's it for today. I know that a lot of people had problems, but just remember. Yes, somebody had a question.
Yeah, sorry. This is Sophia.